So the battle lines over the city's budget are being drawn as Mayor Zoran Mamdani says he is ready to take drastic action to close a $5.5 billion budget hole.
So Mayor Mamdani says the choice is simple: either tax the rich or force homeowners to pay more in property taxes. Needless to say, neither option going over well with some of his supporters. Comptroller Mark Levine in charge of keeping an eye on the city's financials, right? And he is our guest this morning to bring us up to date on the fiscal future. So, Comptroller, good to see you.
Good morning, Dan and Hazel.
So let's talk about this. We talked about a few weeks ago a $12 billion budget deficit. Then it became 7, now it's 5.5, right? And so how bad, when you look at the numbers, would you say it really is?
This is a major challenge.
Yeah.
This is the biggest budget gap that we have faced in New York City since the Great Recession. And it's pretty remarkable that with an economy that is strong and tax revenue that is increasing, we are facing this kind of mess. And it's because of bad practices dating back years, where we underestimated expenses and used one-shot gimmicks, and now we're paying the price. I think we can get out of this if we are smart, but we've all got to ask ourselves, how can we do better on fiscal management so we never get in this hole again during such a strong economy?
Yeah, Mayor Mamdani blames the Adams administration, obviously. I mean, everybody ends up blaming whoever was before them, but where did the money go then?
We have tax revenue has been surging, actually. It's up year over year, every year. Expenses are growing faster, and they were not accounted for in the budget. And there are some expense lines. We have a program for housing vouchers that's growing by 4 to 5% a month.
Yeah.
And you do that math over a couple of years, and it's just not sustainable. Credit to Mayor Mamdani. He is not trying to hide the ball here. He put those numbers starkly in the budget, so we have an honest accounting for the expenses. The upshot is there's a gap, and now we have to fill it, and there's no easy way to do that. I think we can get through this, but it's hard choices ahead.
Yeah, I'm listening to you say that the tax revenue is up. There's a way to get through it. He's pitching two ideas: tax the wealthy, raise the corporate tax, right, all in one, or now raise property taxes. Let's start with property taxes. Do you think that's the wise move?
No, I don't. Property taxes in New York are incredibly unequal. Actually, a brownstone owner in Park Slope pays a lot less than a brownstone owner in, say, East New York. So to add more taxes onto that unequal system is unacceptable. We should not be doing that. We have other options. We can find more efficiencies in the budget. There are some of these large programs I think that we can reconfigure.
Like what?
I talked about the housing voucher program. And look, our schools budget. Remember when we had 1.1 million kids in our schools?
Yes.
That's the number in our heads, right?
Yeah.
You know, today it's below 900,000.
Right.
But the budget's just gone up and up. So we can certainly find savings there, I believe. And we're going to need help from Albany. We send way more to Albany every year. The city is an economic engine for the state. We don't get near as much back. We got to equalize that some. A little of all those things, I think we can make this work.
But critics are already saying that Mayor Mamdani is relying too much on the state right now.
Well, I don't think that's fair. We still send billions more than we get back, and I want to equalize that further. Now, I will say that the city also can do things to get its own house in order, and I think we probably need to push efficiency savings farther than the mayor's proposed so far, and look at some of these big ticket programs and reconfigure them at least to slow the growth. Those are not easy things to do. I don't minimize that.
Yeah.
These are hard choices. But we've also got to build a foundation that will be sustainable. Again, this is all happening in a strong economy. What happens if next year the AI bubble bursts? What happens if Donald Trump succeeds in wrecking the economy? We are not ready for that right now.
You know, I asked the mayor when he was here talking about, he signed that executive order on our air about chief savings officers and finding some of these efficiencies, right? And I said to him, if you don't get what you want in terms of raising taxes, but you were to get more money from Albany, would that be enough? And he said, well, that's just a one-time solution. It's not an ongoing solution, which is why he's now looking to do one of those two things. So I asked you about property taxes. Are you for raising taxes on the wealthy or the corporate tax?
Look, with a challenge this big, everything has to be on the table, for sure. My goal is just closing the gap, and I do think we can get there with more help from Albany to equalize all these unfair funding formulas.
What is more help from Albany, though, than infusing cash into the system?
Yes, look, we got $1.6 billion over the weekend in an agreement between the mayor and the governor. This is a great step in the right direction, but there's a whole host of programs where the city pays more or gets reimbursed less than other parts of the state, and it's not fair. We have so many low-income people in New York City. that need help, and the state has to be there for them and for us. That's not the only solution. I will own the fact that the city's also got to do better, but Albany has a big role to play here.
But what are all the federal funding cuts, though? Is that also part of the issue?
Look, we're not even factoring that in, Hazel, which is why I'm a little worried about the fact that the mayor's drawing down reserves. Pretty dramatic to do that, again, when we're not in a financial crisis. It just leaves us exposed if Trump tries to cut our funds. Well, he has been trying to cut our funding, but we've succeeded in fighting back. Thank you, Tish James. But we might lose around there, and he could do harm to the economy with all these crazy budget tariffs and the AI job losses, which I believe are coming. We don't know when, but if that hits next year and we have no reserves, that's a bad position to be in. So I don't want to get through this fiscal year by leaving us totally at risk for the next one, which is why I'm trying to get a good balanced solution here.
Yeah, and so you have obviously you're the watchdog over the mayor and the
Yes.
finances, right? So are you in conversations with them about making sure that reserve doesn't get depleted?
Look, we met yesterday, the mayor briefly yesterday about these budget challenges. We did talk about the reserve and my concerns there. And I think he understands that my opinion is we need to be adding to reserves, and even to hold them as they are is not adequate, in my opinion, considering all the uncertainty and turbulence ahead. So this is something that I'm going to be speaking up on. It got no attention in the last 24 hours. People are focusing on the property tax, but he's drawing billions down on reserves that we're going to need to deal with what's ahead.